All right, folks, welcome back to the Red and White Podcast. I'm your host, Evan, and I'm here with, as always, with my co-host, Dustin. Dustin, welcome back. It's football season. How excited are you?
It's a pretty good day, I guess. I mean, I watched bad football last weekend just because it was football, you know?
Did you stay up and watch the Australian game, the Stanford Rice game?
No. That was what? That would have been late Saturday night?
Yeah,
No, I was drunk watching the fight, man.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, I ended up watching Oregon State, Colorado State. I mean, that's how desperate I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just so excited. Football season's back. And football season is starting off strong for us. South Carolina and Charlotte this week. What you got on that one?
I wish I were going, but
Yeah.
the ticket prices, no, I don't think so. Like $75 for just to get in the gate, you know? I'm just
That's crazy.
The game day experience doesn't meet the investment, you know? You have to drive. I can't come home after, like right after. It's weather could be a problem, which could affect the game too. It's supposed to be out, but the remnants of Harvey could possibly be in that area at that time. So even if it is, I don't think there's any wind issues, but there could be some random bands of rain. So y'all have fun out there.
Well, if the weather comes into play, I guess we'll touch on this when we get to our preview of the game. But I mean, that's got to help us, right? I mean, their strength is their offense and their passing game, and our weakness is probably our secondary.
Yeah.
I guess let's get into our season preview, right? We've been avoiding this one for a while. The hype train is real. I mean, people have picked us as far as the college football playoff, which is.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's the right reaction.
Hey, I look at polls and we're not ranked, so there is no hype to me, you know?
That's true. That's probably the best thing that could happen. I know Joe Giglio points it out all the time is the law of the wolf is whatever you expect to happen, it's not going to happen. You know, or get preseason hype and then it just never pans out like that for whatever reason. So not being ranked is probably a blessing in disguise. I know they're on the edge, somewhere in the 26 to 28 range, which is perfectly fine for me. The preseason polls mean dick anyway, so I don't hold any stock into them. I don't know. I mean, the hype is defensive line is what everybody's talking about. There's
I don't
the
think
depth
that's
is
hype.
there.
That's legit.
It is. The depth is there. The talent is there, which is. I mean, it's impressive in its own right that they've recruited and developed players, and I think that's exactly what Muschamp said in his press conference. You know, Coach Orrin and company have done just a fantastic job identifying talent and then getting it and just helping it grow. I mean, it's deep. The question mark is going to be replacing Ryan Nielsen. I mean, I think it doesn't get talked about enough. Now, I expect the continuity on the staff has been pretty good, and I expect Dorn has probably brought in somebody who's a talented coach. I mean, he's done well so far in that regards. I mean, Nielsen went to the Saints. You can't hate that. It's not like he left to go to, Akron or Arkansas State or something. I mean, he went up. He's in the NFL now.
State is a pipeline for coaches going to Louisiana now.
Right? We'll get into that one too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, Kevin Patrick, I think, he said it best in one of his interviews in the offseason. Some point says, "I'm just trying not to screw it up. Like these guys are good enough where I'm trying to stay out of their way and let them play." So, it'll be interesting to watch, see how good they are. How much are the linebackers going to be able to help? They'll be returning Arius Moore and Jared Fernandez. But people are talking about Jermaine Pratt being able to play and Brock Miller getting some time. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. They could be really good. I think everybody expects them to be really good with that talent. But I think you just never know. You never know what to expect. We have to put enough pressure on quarterbacks where they're not sitting back there all day throwing the ball. Because as we talked about, the secondary is probably the biggest question on this team, maybe outside of kicking. And now I know we've seen the news this week that Mike Stevens, only returning starter on the corners, although McLeod and some other guys got a lot of playing time. Stevens hurt his leg, not as bad as what it originally sounded like. They're being kind of coy with the injury news, which is fine, but it's going to hurt not to have him, the most experienced. And I think he was actually a pretty good player in this first couple games, but this one in particular.
I still think they'll be okay without him. That gets into more South Carolina stuff, but they're going to have a lot of problems with our D-line. We talk about having to get pressure. That should not be a problem this week. So if he's got to be out, this is, very early part of the season is the perfect time for it.
Right. So I think that, that's probably a question mark. The other one is replacing Matt Days. I don't know if that can be understated enough. He got a ton of carries. First 1,000-yard back we've had in forever. I think it'll be interesting to see how Hines does. They're going to give Nyheim Hines the rock most of the time in the backfield. I think that's probably better for him. I mean, he was fine in the slot, but I think he's probably a better running back. We noticed it on a few deep balls. He dropped some he probably should have had. He made some plays, but coming out of the backfield, I think it's probably going to suit him better, but we're not sure what he's going to get. He's a different style back. And then, Gillespie, we haven't really seen him get a full workload. I mean, I think he's a strong runner. You look at his high school numbers are ridiculous. He's a hard tack. He's hard to bring down. He's the type of player that coming out of high school, a lot of people predicted him to be a linebacker in college, and he's actually a running back for us. So I think that kind of tells you his style of running. And it'll be interesting to see how those two perform. And then along with the offensive line, I think the offensive line has gotten a lot better under Ledford. Dwayne Ledford, I think he's done a fantastic job kind of changing the mentality of being more of an attacking style. So we'll see that kind of makes me feel a little bit better about the running back situation, given I think the offensive line, the continuity, and I think they've gotten that much better. Again, they've developed well, I think.
You remember this time last year when we thought it was a good shot that Johnny Frazier would be the feature back?
Right?
What?
Yeah.
How odd of a situation was that? I mean, what was it? He just didn't want to work? I don't know. That's what I had heard, but
I think there's a lot more to that one than I think anybody knows. I've heard some rumors, and don't want to spread them around, but like you've heard him too. He doesn't want to work or didn't have the work ethic. There's some rumors about him being hurt. He's still in school, so I don't know what. Maybe he just didn't want to play football anymore, and that happens. Really strange, though. I mean, it was a kid that recruited super hard.
Yeah, really excited about him. It's just
super talent. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was, man. It was strange. Yeah, I agree with you. It's like you could never have enough depth, right? We recruited Hines, Frazier, Gillespie. I think they're all in the same class, and everybody's like, "Wow, you had 3 running backs," but now you have basically none who've started.
And that's why you get 3 running backs in one class.
That's why exactly. That's exactly why you do it. But I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. Hopefully, Finley develops enough. I think they were pretty conservative with him last year. I don't think he threw the deep ball as well as he probably could have. I think, from all reports, it's been the focus for him in camp. So we'll see how that develops, see how they work in McClendon as well there. But, he's going to have to perform well enough to take some of the pressure off of the running backs. I think they just can't rely on Hines and Gillespie like they did Matt Days, but could be wrong. The biggest question in everybody's minds has got to be kicking. It can't be said enough, right? One kicker away from winning 10 games and changing the entire landscape of college football last year. 3 kicks, and it's a different mentality throughout the season right now, right? It's completely different. They brought in the kid Carson Wise, but again, has he ever kicked in front of 60,000 people before? I don't think Carson Newman plays in front of those bigger crowds.
No. Do you, if we had had the decent kicking game last year, what would be our ranking coming into this season? Be top 20, right?
Man, yeah, it would have to be top 20, I would think. I mean, missed a kick at ECU. That wasn't Bambar, that was Haskins. The Clemson kick, everybody knows Clemson wouldn't even have been in the title game. They ended up winning the title game. Yeah, they would. I mean, those are two right there. That puts us at 10. I think you'd have to be top 20, and then people would actually start believing the hype, which was probably a problem. So, yeah, I don't know.
It just goes to show we bitched as much as anybody last season.
Oh yeah,
but that's why we don't make the decisions, us as fans.
Yep.
And two, that's why it's so hard to make that decision, because you really need to step back and examine everything. And now, having an off season to cool down, man, we were kicker away.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it was. We'd be top 20 already this year if we had, done something that we all take for granted and that teams take for granted, and that's the kick's going to be good.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think that's the nature of fan, right? Fan's short for a fanatic, and again, we complain as much as everybody. You can nitpick as much as you want, but there's no doubt that the program as a whole has gotten better. It's come from dog shit to not dog shit. We don't exactly know what it is, but it's gotten better. The talent's there. They're talking about, you could have 5 or 6 guys going in the first 2 rounds. I mean, that's amazing from a school that historically has won, 10 games once? I mean, that's, again, yeah, you're right. So, and you take a step back, and you're like, man, they were really close to being really good last year. And nobody wants to admit it in the heat of the moment. Everybody's fired Dorn is a better option. But, again, like you said, that's why you get to look at the bigger picture. And, they've been close, so we'll see. I think it kind of leads me into my next question. What's your best case scenario for this team?
Well, I think we're going to know a lot after Saturday.
Yeah.
If there's not a win Saturday, we got problems. But if I go through the schedule, I really think it's not unrealistic to expect 9 wins.
Right.
10 is possible. Anything below 9, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that we're in a place where we can bitch about an 8-win season.
No, exactly.
But we should have 9. I mean, this is the year it should all come together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll know a lot Saturday, but I think 9 wins. What do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think the conservative nature of state fans not wanting to be disappointed. I've seen eight wins everywhere. I think 9 is probably relative. If I, run through the losses, you got to assume at Florida State, and then maybe you assume Clemson at home. Again, that's Clemson at home. I don't know.
My 9 is beating Clemson.
Yeah, so I think that's possible. At Notre Dame, I don't think they're that good, but you never know, man. Louisville's gonna be tough. I don't know how well we match up with them. Can we contain Lamar Jackson? How bad is their offensive line? So I can see. I don't think 9 wins out of question. I would probably feel okay going with that. But we have to avoid the at Boston College mistakes, the at Wake Forest mistakes. And, Dave Dorn, for the most part, has done that on the road. He's avoided those. It's the home ones that come back to screw us. So, how do we match up with Syracuse offense? A year into that offense, they've got to be a little bit better than they were before. So I don't know. I think just avoiding those, as long as we don't have any NC State moments, right? I think you can see 9 wins. I think the ACC Atlantic, for me personally, the ACC Atlantic, I don't think is as strong. It's not as strong at the top as people think they are. I mean, I think Florida State, they have the talent, but I think they had a lot of question marks last year. And then do they answer that? They lose Dalvin Cook. Sure, they're bringing 5-star top rated running back, but
I
I
think
don't know, man.
Florida State.
I'm not sold.
Their season is on Francois.
Yeah,
He
and I
gets
don't think he's
better.
that good. I don't think he's that good.
So I think
I
he
think he's
is.
okay.
I mean, he was young. You know.
Maybe it could be. It could be partly also offensive line related too.
Yeah.
But I wasn't blown away with him, and you have to be blown away when you're talking about competing at that level, winning the Atlantic. You have to have it. You got to be solid up there. You can't just have a serviceable quarterback
There
and then a
again,
freshman running back. That's just not. It's not
there,
going to work.
there's another answer that we'll have after Saturday as well.
Yeah,
Since
absolutely. Right.
Florida
I mean,
State gets the toughest test of the year, so
yeah.
that'll.
Who scheduled that one?
I don't know, but they lucked into it, man.
Yeah.
That's got to be one of the. Has there been a bigger week one game
Not
ever?
for no. I can't. No, I can't imagine. Not for
Because what's
not
Florida
for the
State
ACC at
three?
least. Yeah.
Ranked
Yeah,
third.
I think they're top three.
Yeah,
I mean,
top one or one versus three. I mean, I don't know that
yeah.
that's ever happened like that. I mean, that's a playoff game in week one. So
Who did Florida State drub somebody in the bowl game? Right? Was that Ole Miss or
I
what
don't
was
even
that?
remember. It was bad.
They whipped somebody, and I think that's kind of where they're getting the love. Let me pull up there. Oh no, it was Michigan. Never
Ah,
mind. They only won by one, but that's
the Big Ten failure.
um, yeah, the Big Ten failure. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what that hype's all about. I think they'll be fine, but I just I don't know if they're as good as what people think they are. And so you have them. Clemson's got a lot of questions. The defense is going to be really good, but they're replacing Deshaun Watson and the receiving core. And I don't even remember who they have coming back as running back.
See, Clemson's getting to
Uh,
that same level too, where okay, they lose some players, but you have more 5 stars coming in, and you can
right.
say, well,
Which
that might not work, but it pretty much works every year for Nick Saban. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean it works for the most part, but I'm just not as sure. With
I mean, I think Clemson
um,
takes a step back for sure,
yeah,
but
and so I could rightly see Louisville being the best team in the East. I mean, in the Atlantic, called the East, in the Atlantic. Um, just because of Lamar Jackson, but they have their own question marks too. So I don't know if it's as defined as everybody thinks it is. But again, that's probably just my state fan optimism early on. I mean, those teams are good. They have a lot of talent. I mean, the Heisman Trophy winner is in our division, right? The defending Heisman Trophy winner.
yeah. See, and
Um,
I'm opposite. I think of those big three, I look at Louisville as the weakest.
yeah,
They
I mean,
have they
I
have
can see it.
Jackson.
Yeah, I can see it. I think they have a lot of question marks. I don't think there's any doubt about that one.
I guess I'm saying
I just
if there's a year that we're just gonna come through out of nowhere, I mean, there's a decent. I don't want to say decent shot, but it's not going to be much better than this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people aren't saying that though. People are seeing. They look at the numbers and like, oh man, Lamar Jackson, Clemson's the national title winner in Florida State. That's going to be impossible. I don't think it's 2006 ACC when Wake Forest had just a clear run to
Right.
make that work out. But I don't think it's also as daunting as people are saying. Uh, but we'll see. I mean, time will tell. That's going to be a tough one to predict. What's your worst case scenario for this team?
Oh man. When you go through it, worst case we lose Saturday, so that takes one away.
Hmm.
Loss at Florida State. I'm pretty comfortable with Syracuse at home. Loss home against Louisville. Pitt. I don't know anything about Pitt. I don't pay attention to that division, so um, it's a road game though, so that's kind of scary. At Notre
Yeah.
Dame, don't expect to win there, even on the worst case or best case. Lost against Clemson, lost to one of the Boston College or Wake games, and then lose to Carolina. I mean, I can go really worst case, but it's probably not realistic.
So, what, 6 wins, 6 losses, 6-6 for your worst case there?
Worst case, 5 wins and a coaching change.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be brutal. Yeah, I don't. That would be the worst case. My worst case is 6-6. I don't think we're anyway we're worse than that. But let's hope it doesn't get to that one. That's
No,
for sure.
I really don't. I can't see that happening. But I like being a pessimist. So
That's the reverse pessimism, I think.
yeah.
And like you said, I think we'll know a lot after Saturday. Now, these opening season game, big matchups on the road or on neutral sites don't really go that well for us. But I'm hoping that's a different year. I'm hoping it's a different program.
It's just going to be a lot better than starting the year against James Madison and being 4-0
It
against
absolutely
Fluffers.
is.
And then conference play starts, and you're like, "Oh shit, what happened?" Well, I'm a big fan of the early test.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we're all probably just have flashbacks to Tennessee and Atlanta.
Yeah,
you
South
come out
Carolina
the
games, the Thursday night games there for a couple of years.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. I think, like you said, this opening game is going to define a lot. I think if Doran wins this game, he's going to hang his hat on beating SEC opponents back to back. But this is probably the biggest game in his short coaching career so far.
Yeah, I can go with that.
Yeah, he's got to win this one. If he wins this one, the hype level is going to reach epic proportion. If he loses, it's going to be suicide watch already, and we're only in week one. I just think that's kind of where we are.
Because guys,
as a fan base.
If we lose week 1, then we're probably not going to make the playoff.
Right.
So it's it's a lot. This is important.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a couple of things we have in our notes here. Guys to watch offensively. There's potential breakouts. We said Hines is going to be the feature back for the most part. Gillespie as well. So one of those guys. I think a guy to watch is probably Jacoby Myers in the slot. I think last year he kind of just got his feet wet, but you could see his potential, and he's the starting slot guy. And I think he could get a lot of exposure. I think he could really be the guy that nobody's paying attention to. Everybody knows about Kelvin Harmon, Steph Lewis. C.J. Riley is the other one, the 6'5" wide receiver. They say he's probably one of the fastest guys on the team. He's 6'5" and the fastest guy on the team.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Wild.
Yeah, and he was hurt last year, but the redshirt year never seems to hurt anybody. So it'll be interesting to see what the offense does. I mean, with all those potential playmakers, who really steps up and who they lean on the most. Obviously outside of Jalen Samuels. If I had to guess, I'd say Jacoby Myers. I think Harmon's going to get the attention. Samuels and Hines are going to get the attention. That's going to leave a lot of slot action there. So little sling outs or quick slants, things like that. And you'll see a guy like that being able to really make some plays. On the defensive side, we've already talked about it. They're pretty much returning everybody. The two guys that I want to see in action are Nick McLeod getting the start now at the corner. I don't know who they're going to pick on. With Mike Stevens out, they could go either way, but I want to see how Nick McLeod handles that. He's got the prototypical 6'1", long frame. He's a smart player. They love everything about him, so they've got a lot of hype. And then Jermaine Pratt. He's been all over the place. He was highly recruited out of high school. They played him at safety. I still remember the Virginia Tech game where he drops that potential interception that probably would have staved off their 28-point comeback or whatever that was. But he's been getting rave reviews. He's super athlete. Let's see how he does. How much playing time does he get behind two senior linebackers, and how does he perform. Jarius Morehead, I think, is probably a guy nobody's talking about or not talking about enough. He's going to be safety as they move Boone up to nickel to replace Dragus Wright. But he's a really smart player, and he's one of those guys that just knows how to play football. And so it'll be interesting to watch him. Those are the guys I would look out for, at least the new guys.
Right.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a quick break, maybe insert a sponsor if we feel up to it, and then let's get back and then we'll talk a little bit about the South Carolina game. All right, folks, we're back, and it's time to talk South Carolina. One of my favorite quotes from when Steve Spurrier era was in an interview. I don't remember about what game it was, but I've heard the clip 100 times. They're like, Steve, how you feel this game? And he just flat out says, "I'm embarrassed. This is an embarrassing team, and I'm embarrassed to be the coach of this team." I loved it. It cracked me up, man. I think it's still one of the best quotes out there. I don't really know much about South Carolina. You're the SEC homer, part-time SEC homer. Give us the lowdown about South Carolina.
All right, they went 6-7 last year, but those 6 wins were, I think some of those were luck on their own, including beating Tennessee, of course. But they're a defensive team. I mean, they're a Muschamp team, so that tells you all you need to know. I mean, Florida was still defensively good when he was there, even if their offense was trash. So, strong part of their defense is their secondary. The line probably won't get a whole lot of pressure, but they stopped the big plays. They gave up, hardly any big plays last year, and that's the reason they won some of those games. Deep passes will be hard to come by because their secondary will be on us. I think it's important that we run the ball, and that we should be able to run the ball, but we have to commit to that. And I don't think that'll be a problem. I mean, they know what to expect. On a side note, I can't tell you much about their kick defense, so we'll just have to test the waters. But it can't be better than Clemson's was last year, so we should be able to do something there. But offensively, we should be able to move the ball and score a decent amount. But we have to somewhat keep it on the ground.
I like that. I agree with you. I mean, I think that's, again, one of the question marks, and I'm going to lead into one of the questions that one of our Twitter followers posed to us. How confident are you in Days' replacement? Will the passing game open up more with a second-year QB? I think we'll find out a lot in this first game here. I think that's exactly what the game plan is going to dictate for us to do. You know, typical Muschamp teams. Well, I don't believe him as a coach. They always have good defenses.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what we'll exactly see that develop in this game and be able to figure that out really quickly.
Just don't judge our offense on this game necessarily.
Right.
Because this is, I mean, they're not going to have a great year, but it's one of the better defenses overall that we'll face.
That's fair.
Just because of the way they're coached. I mean, he can coach the hell out of defense. Can't throw a ball out of a wet paper bag, but he can put a defensive unit on the field. So
what about that South Carolina offense?
It's trash, man. It's got to be better than it was last year. I mean, they put Jake Bentley as their quarterback. He came in super young, but he'll be a second-year guy, so that should pick up. But I mean, they only threw for, I think 213 yards a game last year. So that was good enough to be 83rd. They averaged 134 yards on the ground. So you do the math. They don't put up a lot of yards, let alone points. Their backfield is going to be better this year. Rico Dowdle is the RB1 there, but they've got a decent, platoon behind him. So when they spell him, there's still some reason to worry. But they're along with that, their offensive line is probably the weakest part on that side of the ball. So they can have a running back, but it's kind of I mean, a nightmare for them, really. The pressure that we should be able to inflict. We'll know a lot as well about our defensive line because we should be in that backfield all day. That's the weakest part of their team by far on both sides of the ball is their offensive line. So this should be everybody should know about the state D-line by the end of the game. I mean that's honestly my guess, and if that doesn't go, then we got problems, and it's there's something going on. So
I think
that could be a recurring theme for O-lines this year facing our D-line, but I think this one is one of the. I mean, we should go at them. So.
Yeah, two things I've heard, or at least about this South Carolina team is I want to remember that the Rico Dowdell, I think he's a North Carolina kid somewhere in the western part of the state that kind of blew up his senior year. We recruited him late. I think he just wanted to go and get some playing time. He had a ton of yards. He was pretty much one of those guys that carries a small school on his back. Mm-hmm. And so he's a good athlete. And so I think, like you said, they've got some talent, but he's got to make some holes for them. And I guess the common prognostication for South Carolina is that they're just a year behind. They're sort of on the same trajectory that Dorn's tenure has been, where they just don't have enough of the developed experience. Last year, you always heard is that, hey, we're the youngest team in the country, one of those sorts of things. And I think South Carolina's us a year ago. So they can put it together, but they're just not quite there yet. They don't have the depth. They don't have it as developed. So it'll be interesting to see. I think we'll learn a lot. Like you said, I think we'll just see the difference in the timelines of the programs. So all that said, what's your prediction?
Oh man,
6-point spread. Pack's favorite.
Spread. Well, all right. South Carolina won 6 last year. They won 3 the year before. So they doubled their win total. That's a good trajectory. To get to 6 this year, they need this game. Honestly, I still think State wins like 28-10, something like that. You'll never hear me call that ever again. But just from the South Carolina games I saw last year and seeing the trajectory they were on and where they should be, they're going to be a little better. But, I mean, this is one of the best defenses they'll face. I just can't see it going well. And I don't think we'll have that big of a problem scoring on them. So, yeah, blow the spread up, I think.
Oof. I like it. You don't hear many of those bold predictions from Dustin.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm kind of with you there. I think they'll probably score twice. I give them 14. I think I like 24-14. Similar outcome. I think that'd be fine.
Are we buying into the hype?
Oh, I mean, you've been driving the hype train all season, son, all summer. I mean, I'm just now catching up.
Oh yeah,
I'm getting on it.
Oh. But yeah, I think
I don't know.
And I also, for me, we need to beat the spread for it to be a win because they're not that good. And 6 is too low, I think.
I think they have kicking troubles too. From what, if I recall reading this correctly or hearing Muschamp's interview, they don't know who's going to kick for them either. And last year they had, quite a few kicking blunders. So that could be another, like we said, another similarity to the 2016 Wolfpack to the 2017 Gamecocks.
And they won a lot of games last year too on turnovers.
Yeah,
their defense caused a lot of turnovers, but a lot of those were lucky turnovers. So their defense was decent last year. I don't know that it looks as good because it's unrealistic to force that many turnovers. I mean, I think ECU turned the ball over like 3 times inside the 10 against them.
Yeah.
So there again, they don't match up well against us.
Right. It could be. Hopefully, I mean, it could be a good matchup for us. Hopefully, it'd be a first.
Yeah.
But they beat ECU last year. I'm just looking at the score. Yeah, 20-15.
Yeah. See, they won by 5, but ECU turned the ball over, I swear, 2 or 3 times inside the South Carolina 10.
Right.
So that's a bowl eligible game for them. So that's the kind of games they won by far.
Right.
Were close, crazy games. Win's a win, but it's a new year, so.
So I guess my other question about this game is who's going to have more fans there?
I would say South Carolina probably.
Yeah.
Columbia is an hour away, and lived in South Carolina 3 years. All they care about is Clemson and South Carolina football. I mean, that's it.
Right.
There's no they could care less. I wasn't down there for the basketball Final Four run, but I still don't imagine it was from what I saw, people I knew down there is like, oh yeah, we don't know anybody on the team, but go them. Football's a different story. They love it. There's nothing else in South Carolina except football, so they'll travel decently well. The ticket price might have had an effect on that, but overall, I would say it's probably going to be a little more garnet than red.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can believe it. It'd probably be pretty split if I had to take a guess. I'm curious if it'll be a packed house. I remember, I think it was a State Carolina game the first year they did it in Bank of America Stadium, and it was packed, man. You could see the divisible line, blue and red, and it was loud. It was really good, and I don't think it's ever lived up to that hype, at least for me, since that game. I think the rest of it's kind of an up or down.
It's the same kind of thing. When I heard they were playing there, I was really excited, and it was going to be a good time, but I'm not paying that much to go to this game.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
Yeah.
So I think that could have an effect overall. They're pricing it like it's a marquee matchup, and neither team is ranked.
Yeah. It's an ESPN game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ESPN, but
all right. Good.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Those ticket prices are unreal. I'm going to be pissed off about that all year. So,
especially if we blow them out too, you'll be really pissed.
Yeah. So, but whatever. I'll stay at home and stay dry, air conditioned, be able to watch other games, be able to watch that Florida State Alabama game that night. So I'm fine.
Yeah, it's gonna be some good football this weekend. I have your note in here. It says ACC went 6-3 in the regular season and 4-1 against SEC last season.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend. It's very likely that we could be the only ACC win with FSU, Bama, and Georgia Tech, Tennessee. I don't know that Georgia Tech, Tennessee game. That'll be interesting.
I'm going to be livid if Tennessee loses that game. You have the whole offseason to prepare for that bullshit offense that Paul Johnson runs.
Yeah.
So I can't see Florida State or Georgia Tech winning. So we should be the banner holder this weekend.
Speaking of Paul Johnson, I had to put this note in here. I saw this article this summer, and it just made me laugh. Paul Johnson's quote, ACC tries to screw us. I was like, I love Paul Johnson. I had to read this headline.
Fan, doesn't he?
He does. That's why I love him. He's just an angry, bitter old man. But he's talking about this is when the schedules came out, and the Yellow Jackets will face 3 ACC opponents who have an open date before playing them, more than any other team in the league, and it's happened, before. And Paul Johnson's convinced that it's not a coincidence. And he says the conference is trying to screw us every way they can. I love it. I love it. What a great quote. He's right. I mean, there's, like we always said, they're sticking up for the Blues, and he's not one of them. And at least he has the cojones to say it. It just makes me happy. I thought I had to include that part. A couple other questions from the Twitter sphere here. Tailgating in Charlotte. I don't know anything about it. I've been there a few times for Panther games and state games, but you usually just find whatever parking lot you can.
Yeah. There's parking everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a couple of parking services that you can go online and pre-order a spot. That's what we usually do when we go to games in Charlotte, but you can drive around and find it easy enough.
Yeah. A lot of those restaurants and places have, parties set up, one of those sorts of things. So yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. It should be interesting. Our man Hokey Smash, talk to road visitors about your favorite barbecue restaurants. I mean, what's your favorite barbecue in the area? Our area.
Are we talking like in Raleigh or?
I'd just say Wake County.
Wake County.
Orange County?
Yeah. I got to go to the Pit probably in Wake County. Clyde Cooper's is good.
Yeah, Clyde Cooper's would.
The Pit's fancy barbecue, man, but it's still good.
I like the Pit. The Pit has good sides, but I'm
Yeah.
not sold on their barbecue. I like Clyde Cooper's probably one of the favorites. Um, uh, what's the one? Backyard Pit over in 55. Backyard Barbecue. That one is legit. I mean, that's probably one of the best rounds. And I always lean towards Smokies. It's a little bit more Texas style, not Texas style, Tennessee style, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it, but man, their smoked wings are so good.
Well, that's not barbecue though.
Does. Well, the
Their
barbecue
wings
is
are
good
good.
too, but man, their wings are so good. It makes it work. It
I
makes
would
it worth it.
say honestly, drive the hour and a half to Aiden.
Oh,
And
Skylight Inn, but
Skylight
yeah,
Inn. Yeah. So
if you want the best barbecue around, go to Skylight Inn.
yeah.
I will make a detour just to go there. It's that good.
I told Evan that I was going there one day, and he had me bring him back what, like 3 pounds
Absolutely,
or
yeah.
something to. I mean, it's that good, guys. So even
It's
if you're in
so
Raleigh and you've never been, get your ass down there. You might not like the cornbread, but everything else is money.
That's right. Um, Roland Jenkins, your real opinion on how the season plays out? I think we're both on the 8-9 win
Yeah.
bandwagon. I think it's possible. We should have a good team, right? I don't think there's too many, knock on wood, too many issues that could hold us back because we have the depth. We have the playmakers. I don't know. I mean, I feel pretty good. Cautious optimism.
We
I
just
guess
gotta
that's
have a
pretty
kicker,
much
man.
standard. Yeah, make the kicks, man. If Connor Wise can make his kicks, or then we'll be okay.
We have a competent kicking game. We could hit 10 wins.
It's possible, man. Anything's possible. Like we said with the rest of the preview, I don't know how strong. I take that back. They're going to be strong. I don't know if their question marks are as big as I think they are, or if there's they're as little as other people was thinking. Like Clemson, Florida State, Louisville, like they all have question marks. Anything can happen. So, our boy NIT Stan. Hello and yes. State secondary, lockdown or toast rack? I don't know about toast rack. I don't think they're too young to be locked down. So somewhere in the middle. I'll walk the fence and say that. But I think Sean Boone at nickel is awesome. I think he's a fantastic football player. And then, Jarius Moorhead, Dexter Wright, in the secondary, Freddie Phillips out there too. I mean, those guys have played a lot before. Or Freddie Phillips has. The other two I think they're really good football players. So we'll see. And then a lot of it depends on how much pressure the line can get on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I was
Are we
gonna
going to
say,
have to blitz? Those sorts of things.
the best player in the secondary is the defensive line.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they get the pressure. That secondary looks a whole lot better. So
Right. Yeah. And then how confident are you in Days' replacement? I don't know. I'm not super confident. Matt Days is really good. And I think he was 30th running back taking the draft. I think it's ridiculous. I think you're kind of seeing that in the preseason. He's had a really good preseason. He scored a few times. He's with the Browns, so who the hell knows what's going to happen, but he's a hell of a football player, and it's going to be hard replacing a guy like that. We have talent. I mean, there's 2, 4, 5-star guys, however you want to look at their recruiting rankings. So it's not like they're devoid of talent. And there's enough guys out there that hopefully you don't have to rely on them completely. I don't think you'll see Jalen Samuels in the backfield, which is probably better off. I don't think he's a pure running back. But keeping Gillespie and Hines upright will be interesting to see. I think it's important for us, and the potential is there. The potential is there to replace Days and not have too much of a drop off. But you always, when you're splitting time like that, I think their reliability comes into question. Matt Days held onto the ball. He would pick up like 4.5 yards a clip. I mean, he was just that good. But the better offensive line, the aged offensive line, all these things kind of come together, kind of help make up for it. So hopefully you don't see much of a drop off there. That would be my answer to that question. I think it's possible to replace him and not see too much of a drop off, but it's going to be spread around, not going to be on one guy. Fair?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, that's all I got. We're back. It's good to be back recording again. It's good to have football season back. The more I think about it, the more anxious I get. I'm ready to just see what happens, man. I'm ready to see us play. I'm ready to watch some football. And I'm glad we have a strong start to the year. We're not playing Jabroni University.
Yeah, I think that's just going to set us up better as the season goes along. So,
yep. All right, that's all I got.
Man. I'm ready.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will be back on a regular schedule, and we'll talk to you soon. Go Pack.
Optimism level 10. Go Pack.